Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of my blind read-through of Saya no Uta, aka The Song of Saya. Yes, this will be completely blind. I never read this VN before, this will be my first time. Please be gentle. Saya no Uta was developed by Nitro Plus and released in Japan in December 2003. Then it got localized and published in the West by Just USA in 2013. You can get this visual novel for $25 on JList, for example, if you're interested. The scenario of Saya no Uta was written by a person who has become pretty well known in recent years. Of course, I'm talking about Gen Urobuchi, who is also the scenario writer for anime like Mahou Shoujo, Madoka Magica and Psycho-Pass, and he also wrote the Fate Zero Light novels. Anyway, Saya no Uta belongs, as far as I know, to the horror genre, so there might be some disturbing and gory images, and there is also some explicit sexual content, which I'll have to cut out, of course, if it gets too explicit. Anyway, you've been warned. I don't know if the protagonist is voiced. I think the protagonists of Nitro Plus VNs are usually voiced. Well, we'll see. I'll just read the unvoiced lines. Well then, let us begin. The story is a work of fiction. The medical procedures and conditions described herein are imaginary and do not reflect what do they not reflect? This work of fiction contains grotesque images that may disturb some viewers. Please select how you would like such images displayed. Do not modify grotesque images, obscure focus of grotesque images, obscure focus and lower brightness of grotesque images. I think grotesque images should be okay for YouTube, as long as it's drawn. So let's choose do not modify grotesque images. What is this? The fuck? The wriggling mass of flesh burbles. What is going on here? 3 such creatures sit around the table in front of me, slurping filthy sludge from their cups as they trade whines, growls and sounds that I cannot describe. What is this? Holy shit. What is going on here? By listening carefully, I am able to grasp the gist of their conversation and respond when it is required of me. This is necessary to avoid arousing their suspicion. However these creatures may look, they are my friends apparently. Are they? And who have we here? I wish that I could still deny it, but I gave up on that a long time ago. Night after night I went to sleep praying for an end to this nightmare, only to wake each morning to the same twisted hellscape as the day before. I know now that I have to blend in, that I have to act like one of them. Such has been my life these past 3 months, and so it will remain until the day I die. Judging by its tone, this one must be Koji, and the one next to him, squealing more than the others, is probably Omi. Which means that the one next to me is Yo, though I can no longer see any trace of her once attractive features. I try my best to ignore the rotten stench of excrement that issues from her quivering flesh. Everything has changed, or almost everything. By some cruel trick of fate, my relationship to the world alone remains the same, as if an insane architect took the blueprints of my life and rebuilt it out of blood and gore. These monsters and I were part of the same college club. We studied together, ate together, we even went skiing together every winter break. What happened? Now these are but painful memories of days that will never return. If only no one recognized me, I might have been able to disconnect myself from the world. It would have been comforting, in comparison, to believe that I had been abducted by aliens or that I had stumbled through a gateway to hell. But no, this is beyond a doubt the city where I was born and raised, the society that I was part of for 20 years. Save that I, and I alone, can no longer see it that way. The world as I knew it is gone. I have no place to call home. Anyway, I can tell that whatever they're talking about is of no importance to me. I decide to keep quiet while pretending to listen. But just then, one of the flesh beasts says as it swivels its bloodshot eyes towards me. Oh, so the protagonist is voiced. Okay. I try desperately to suppress my loathing and behave normally, but my hoarse voice ruins the attempt. The ski trip with weird flash balls sounds good. A slimy hole near the top of the creature writhers nauseatingly as it vomits some semblance of words. That must be Koji's face, or what I would have seen as such 3 months ago. Unable to stomach the sight of it, I avert my eyes and give a neutral answer. These were my closest companions. One of them had even wished to be more. How many nights have I spent crying in loneliness, lamenting the friends who no longer exist? In 3 months my tears ran dry, and now there's only loathing left in me, surrounded by hideous creatures that I can only assume are Koji, Omi, and Yo. I spend each day trying to act as I always have. If I fail at this, I'll surely be sent back to the hospital. Only this time I'll be locked away forever. No matter what, I won't let that happen. That's it. I can't look at them or bear their screeching any longer. I jump to my feet, desperate to escape. A spray of stringy slime from the cilia around its voice box flies at me. I try to cover myself, but too late to keep the slime from splattering across my face like the yolk of a rotten egg. I'm about to lose it. I want to grab a chair, a desk, anything within reach, and use it to smash the life out of this creature, ending it all. I barely suppress the impulse. I mustn't let on that something is wrong. However they look at me, this is their world. I'm the outsider here. Struggling to put on a smile, I reach into my wallet, pull out the first bill I find, and put it on the table without even looking at it. I don't care about the change, I just need to get out of here. Now. I mutter hastily and flee the cafeteria. I'm not crazy. Oh, now everything looks normal. Says Takahata Omi. Tsukuba frowns at the suggestion. Tono Koji supports Omi with a laugh. Her impromptu suggestions are nothing new, and it's Koji's role as her boyfriend to provide backup. They're a good match for each other, Yo thinks. Sometimes it makes her jealous. So it was a date. Yo feels a step of envy. Koji and Omi enjoy their time together, as normal lovers do. That's certainly not something that should arouse jealousy, it's just that her luck in love has been bad.
見てみたいな。大見ちゃんがスケートやるところ。
Yo keeps her voice upbeat, trying to cover up her internal conflict. She knows that it's wrong to envy her friends. She too would be spending time with a man she admires, if not for her terrible tragedy that befell him. His is true misfortune. Her bad luck doesn't begin to compare.
だからさ、ね、今度のスキー旅行、ついでにスケート旅行にしちゃえば2倍美味しく楽しいってわけよ。でもさ、スケートはスケートリンクに行けばできるじゃない。わざわざスキー場に行ってまでやる？だから屋内じゃなくてさ、屋外スケート、凍った湖とかで滑れるところ。そんな都合のいいとこあるかな。なんだかすっごく混んでそう。
While speaking, Yo sneaks a sideways glance at the young man sitting next to her. Although the conversation has involved only 3 people so far, there are in fact 2 couples at the cafeteria table. Yo's boyfriend, though there is still some doubt over whether he could be called that, is beside her, as silent and expressionless as a statue.
なあ、Fuminori。お前はどう思う?
Perhaps Koji sensed Yo's pain in his usual quiet and considerate way.
どうって。
So I guess this is the same scene we saw before, just from the perspective of the other people, huh? So he's the only one who sees the world as a disgusting mess. But what is the reason for that? The cause of Yo's distress, Sakisaka Fuminori responds to Koji's sudden query with a vague, mumbled question of his own.
いや、だからさ、今年の冬のスキーだよ。お前も行くよな。
Koji speaks gingerly, as though probing a rumor. A few months ago, he would not have hesitated to rebuke Fuminori for his attitude. The long acquaintance had forged a strong and honest friendship. But now...
わからない。
Fuminori responds bluntly, his downcast eyes and sullen demeanor making clear that he has no desire to break his silence.
何か他の予定でもあるのか? いや、別に。
Even Koji, Fuminori's best friend, cannot communicate with him as before. What hope does Yo have of breaking through his shell? The scars left by the events of that late summer day are still deep all these months later. Each one of the 4 bears them, not only Fuminori. What happened?
なあ、別に運動するのが傷に触るとかそういうわけでもないんだろ? どうだろうな。今日の診療で先生に聞いてみる。
As though that answer drained the last of his patience, Fuminori bolts out of his chair.
おい、Fuminori!
Even Koji can't keep his voice from rising as he tries to stop Fuminori from leaving. Fuminori reacts swiftly, throwing his hand over his face as though to shield himself from something terrifying. Maybe some spit flew inadvertently from Koji's mouth, but that sort of thing happens during everyday conversation. Fuminori's reaction is beyond the pale.
だから今日も診療なんだ。もう時間だから。
His voice sounds really familiar. Fuminori snaps, making no attempt to relieve the discomfort of his friends. Even as he tosses money on the table to pay for his coffee, he acts like he's touching something filthy.
それじゃ。
Fuminori stalks out of the cafeteria, almost as if he's running away. Cloaked in heavy silence, the remaining 3 lower their gaze to the table where the abandoned 10,000 yen bill sways forlornly. Fuminori's coffee is untouched.
やってられないわね。
Umi says with a sigh, but Koji shakes his head reproachfully.
Fuminori にはもう少し時間が必要なんだと思う。
だってもう3ヶ月よ。なんなのよあれ。付き合ってるこっちが変になりそうよ。
俺だってわからない。わかるはずもないと思う。お前だって想像つくか？あんなひどい形で家族全員を奪われて。
He lost his whole
平気で
family?
いられるわけないよ。
It could have happened to anyone. A tractor trailer flipped over on the highway, crushing the Sakisaka family car into twisted scrap. They said it had been difficult to tell the bodies of Fuminori's parents apart. For a while, it had looked as if there was no hope for Fuminori either. It was nothing short of a miracle that he was able to leave the hospital and return to a normal life. So that's what happened.
前に行った時なんてもっとひどかったじゃないか。誰が誰かもわからずに怯えて暴れて。 ベッドに縛り付けられて。今はよくあそこまで立ち直ってくれたと思う。
それにしたって変よ、咲坂くん。私たちのこと見る目つき、あれ何なの？
よせ、近江。
Koji says forcefully, probably less out of empathy for his friend than out of consideration for Yo. While Koji's kindness makes her happy, Yo also knows that she mustn't take advantage of it. Fuminori is the victim, just as Koji said. He's the one who most deserves sympathy. Yo's feelings for Fuminori are her problem and no one else's. She doesn't blame Fuminori for not giving her an answer after she worked up the courage to ask him out. In fact, she thinks even more fondly of him for his serious consideration of her feelings than she would have had he treated the relationship casually. Apparently, the fact that Fuminori did not reject her was enough to make them a couple in Koji and Omi's eyes. They've had plenty of fun at Yo and Fuminori's expense since. The truth of it, though, is that he still hasn't given her an answer. After revealing her feelings to him, Yo didn't see Fuminori again until a week later, and then she could only stare at his broken body through the window of the ICU. And when he was finally released, after 50 days that seemed an eternity, he was somehow different. She's starting to doubt that he even remembers what she confessed to him before the accident. Now winter is coming and her feelings hang forgotten in the cold, lonely air. Dr. Tambo Ryoko has never had a more troublesome patient.
その後の経過はどうですか、咲坂さん。
いいえ、別だ。これと
His voice is hard and flat, his words tossed carelessly into the air. It's like he's speaking to himself in an empty room. Ryoko is a surgeon, not a psychiatrist, but even she can sense the thickness of the wall he has erected between himself and the world.
吐き気やめまい、幻聴や幻覚といった体験は？
いいえ、何も。
While Sakisaka appears to be looking at Ryoko, his gaze is actually aimed a fraction down and to the side. He's only superficially engaged in the conversation, when in truth it does not interest him in the slightest. Perfect rejection. Realizing that she can't interview him like this, Ryoko sighs and sets her chart aside.
咲坂さん、あなたが当院で受けた処置は脳神経医学の分野では世界的に最先端の治療でした。そのことはご存知ですよね。
Experimental neurosurgery, so they messed with his brain, huh? Maybe that's the reason for his condition. Treatment of subdural hematoma through the use of micromachines, a procedure available in Japan exclusively here at the T University Medical Center, had been the only way to save Sakisaka Fuminori from a cerebral contusion that should have been fatal.
最先端であるということは、まだまだデータの出揃っていない危険性の伴う治療法だったという意味でもあります。
そうでしょうね。
Sakisaka Fuminori's lips twist slightly in what might be a bitter or mocking smile, but it is gone before Ryoko can discern its meaning.
普通、こんなことを言って脅かすのは医者として問題なんですが、施術後に重大な脳障害をきたしたケースも報告されているんです。予後の経過には十分に注意しなければなりません。
Hence these weekly checkups, if only he would take them a little more seriously.
先週の MRI はどうでした？
Sakisaka asks abruptly as if to catch Ryoko off guard. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, is a way for doctors to examine the brain in detail without opening the patient's skull. Surprised by Sakisaka's uncommon technical knowledge, Ryoko records his profile.
そういえばあなたも医者の卵だったわね。
The medical student.
先生が心配しているような脳機能不全は画像診断だけでも十分にわかるはずですよね。何か異常はあったんですか？
いいえ。
There was nothing, not the slightest hint of abnormal activity. For a procedure with such a low rate of success, the results have been nothing short of miraculous. However, something still bothers Ryoko. She can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something beneath his guarded exterior. Some terrible weight on his soul, perhaps. But if it is an inorganic problem, then there's nothing she can do as long as he refuses to explain it.
大丈夫ですよ、先生。現に僕は今こうして病院の外でも何不自由なく生活しています。問題なんてないでしょ
Why isn't he telling her about what he's seeing? Maybe then she could help him. Or maybe she would think that he is crazy and they would send him to a mental asylum or something.
ねえ咲坂さん、こういった難しい手術は予後不断が原則なんです。もう少し私たちを信用してもらえませんと。
そうですよね。僕だって先生方を信用したい。どんな相談にも乗ってもらえるんですか？
ええ、もちろん。
Ryoko answers, smiling to cover up her irritation. Sakisaka asked exactly the same question during last week's visit.
じゃあ、先週の話の続きなんですか？先生、あれから大貝教授については何か分かりましたか？
Dr. Ogai? Who's that? Unable to answer, Ryoko hardens the mask of her smile. As before, the patient is inquiring about someone whom he has no business knowing.
大貝教授のことは、あなたの治療とは何の関係もないでしょ？
信頼しろと言った矢先にいきなり隠し事ですか？
Ryoko is used to patients treating her with hostility. After all, some degree of paranoia is natural when dealing with someone who holds your life in her hands. In Sakisaka, however, she doesn't see the short-sighted impatience that other patients exhibit. His demeanor is perfectly calm, almost like a detective questioning a suspect.
何分だいぶ前にここを辞められた方ですからね。私個人としても交流があったわけではないし。
辞めた理由はご存じない？
ええ、おそらく個人的な事情でしょうね。
Ryoko answers smoothly, her earlier hesitation gone. Having decided at the outset to lie, she has no trouble doing so with a straight face.
それにしても、咲坂さん、なぜあなたはそんなに大貝教授にこだわるんです？
教授は今失踪中なんです。
いいえ。
Ryoko realizes that her answer may have been a little too quick. She should have acted more surprised.
近頃教授の身内の人間と懇意にしていましてね。その人から調査を頼まれているんです。
A relative? A relative? Ryoko considers this with a frown.
大貝教授に縁者の方はおられないはずですが。
おお、誰から聞きました？
それは噂話に。
Ryoko replies, remembering that she just claimed to have had no contact with the man.
なるほど。そんなことが噂になる程度には、大貝教授は有名人だったわけですね。
まあ、一風変わった人だったみたいですね。
なのに、誰も彼が大学を辞めた理由を知らないと。
Ryoko falls silent, knowing that this isn't a topic she can brush away with a smile. Sakisaka seems to have finally grasped the mood, however, as his strangely stiff tone softens a little.
先生、僕はどうしても大貝教授に会わなきゃならないんです。彼がいなくなったせいで、行く当てがなくなり困っている子がいるんです。力になってもらえませんか？
A girl? Who might he be talking about?
それはむしろ警察の領分なんじゃないかしら。
Although she makes it sound like the most obvious thing in the world, the suggestion is actually a risky gamble. If Ogai Masahiko's disappearance becomes a police matter, then the university will be investigated. Everyone who was involved in the incident will be at risk of exposure. And of course, that includes Ryoko herself. She knows, however, that Sakisaka is unlikely to go to the police. First of all, his excuse is obviously a lie. They already made sure that Ogai had no relatives who might come looking for him, which is why they could bury the truth of what happened. The truth? But then how did Sakisaka, a mere patient, learn about Ogai?
咲坂さん、私の知っている範囲のことは喜んでお教えします。ですが、大貝教授は今年の4月に辞表を出して、以後は何の音信もないんです。どこか長期の旅行にでも行かれたか。
そうですか。
Expecting resistance, Ryoko is surprised when Sakisaka backs down. She's still worried about his condition, and the mysterious link between him and Ogai Masahiko is only making her more uneasy. But as long as he doesn't open up to her, there's nothing she can do. After a brief pause, Ryoko writes progress good on Sakisaka's chart for today.
咲坂さん、それでは来週の診察ですが、今日と同じ4時でも。
Before she can finish, Sakisaka's gone. Ew. It looks like someone sprayed the walls with pig guts from ceiling to floor. Well, let's pass this disgusting hallway next time on Saya no Uta. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Bye bye.